This is MacVoices TV. This edition of MacVoices TV at Macworld 2011 is brought to you by Smile, the makers of PDF Pen and Text Expander, tools for your Mac, iPhone, and iPad. Download free demos of these and more at smilesoftware.com. Welcome to MacVoices TV at Macworld 2011. I'm Chuck Joyner. We're hanging out in the Drobo booth with two of my favorite people, Mark Fuccio from Drobo and Gene MacDonald of Smile on My Mac. Guys, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for talking to us.
Good morning. It's great to be here with the both of you.
Yeah, this is great, and I wanted to get you two together for a couple reasons. First of all, you have a number of things in common. First of all, your companies are both helping sponsor MacVoices TV at Macworld, and I really, really appreciate that. Number two, you both have cool products that I can't live without. Number three, though, is that you both have taken sort of a unique position. You've really made your companies part of the Mac community. You sponsor a lot of podcasts. I know you have some user group involvement as well. You don't just take your marketing message and your product message and throw it out there. You really have worked to become part of the community. Was that sort of an accident, or did that just happen? And Gene, I think you were probably a little earlier to that part of the game.
I don't think it wasn't planned, like it wasn't calculated. It's just that's what we are. You know, we're Mac users first, and then, you know, Mac company is what we do, and it's so much part of what we do. People will ask us, like, are you going to do a Windows version of PDF Pen? And we all look like, no. Like, why would we do that? We're Mac users. Like, we can't even imagine wanting to spend any time on a PC at all. I mean, that's different for us, obviously. And so it just, I think, naturally evolves out of being Mac users and being part of the community, that our company, you know, it's a natural step for us to have the company be part of that as well.
And Mark, you have a different situation, of course, because you're hardware, and you are not just Mac specific by the very nature of things. But yet you have really made yourself part of the Mac community. It's a big chunk of your identity at this point, at least from where I sit. And I'm sure somebody else would say, well, not really. But if you're in the Mac community, you know Drobo. You can't have not heard of Drobo.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to tell you this was a chess game. We planned it, 20 moves ahead. But I think there's an element in common with what Gene said. We tried and we watered and we fertilized things that worked. And in this age, everyone is experts at tuning out noise, and as a result, you have to present your products in different ways to communicate. And making an investment, people don't like carpetbaggers who are just going to try to quickly come in. It's really a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, sponsoring podcasts, getting involved in user groups. This is our fourth year in a row at this show. These are all things that help build the awareness, because we had 1,600 people through yesterday, and you say yes, a lot of people in the Mac community know about Drobo. It's still not true. We're selling to a lot of the early adopters and people a lot of storage, and there's still a lot of people who are just learning or just starting to grow and maybe starting to do their own personal videos where their storage needs are exploding. So it's an ongoing, it's a marathon. It's not a quick sprint for quick sales.
No, and your appearances at the show. I mean, this is important. A lot of people question whether the show really still has value. I know I firmly believe it does. You two obviously must, because you're here. Gene, how long have you been exhibiting here, and you keep coming back?
Yeah, the first Macworld we did in San Francisco was 2004, and so this would be our eighth Macworld, our seventh exhibiting, because we did take last year off, and it was a hard decision because we really do, are part of the community, and we didn't want to be like, oh, we're not supporting this show now because Apple's not there. It wasn't like that at all. It was just, we are a small company, and our product development schedule was such that there was no way we were going to get out two new products, new text expander and new PDF pen, and also do a booth at Macworld. But as soon as, they started, recruiting for this Macworld, we were like, we want to be there, and we have really supported it. And people have come up to me, and I really like it when they say, like, we are really glad to see you here, because it's still Macworld, it's and to have Mac developers around, there's more this year, and hopefully, like next year, more will come back. You know who you are. Come back to Macworld.
That looked positively mean, Jean.
I'm trying to be persuasive. They're all my friends. I'm just.
Mark, another thing that you've both done this year, and you've done it in the past, is you share your booth with some of us who produce independent content. You invite us in to talk a little bit, to do a meet and greet or whatever. I know I'm in tomorrow morning. The voice that probably some folks can hear in the background is Katie Floyd from Mac Power Users, who's doing a paperless presentation right now. That, too, is an interesting approach. And once again, it goes with that whole thing of being part of the community, inviting the community in and participating. Is that just calculated, or does it just seem natural to do so, since we're all not only, you support us, but we're also your biggest fans?
It's a little bit of both. What we're finding is many people, they're curious about how they might use a Drobo. So Drobo is a hardware box. It's a supporting actor. It's not the star. People like Katie are the star, talking about how she uses it, Drobo in a digital paper flow. Yesterday we had a number of podcasters, Rich Harrington and Alex Lindsay, talking about how they use Drobo in some of their workflows. But Drobo is a supporting actor. We tried to open it up to try to get brave people who ask questions in front of a crowd of strangers, because that way we get the best interchange between people who are using Drobo and people who are curious or maybe not quite sure, because one of the messages we're getting is, to a lot of people, it just seems a little too magical and a little too good to be true. So as a result, we're the vendor, so we don't have as much credibility as other people who are using it and will share their own experiences.
And Gene, you certainly have no shortage of prominent people who endorse and rave about your software. I don't even want to think about Life Without Text Expander, and I know a lot of people who live in more in PDFs, that PDF Pen is an essential. It's not an optional. It's an essential tool, and so in a way, you guys have a couple things here that are just so useful to so many people instead of having a niche market.
Yeah, no, it's true. Although, from a marketing point of view, that can be a tougher job, because when you have something that everybody should be using, you can't market to everybody. Everybody's not a good target audience. So, PDF Pen has been, people get that because they've tried to use Acrobat or they use Preview or whatever. But text expansion, if you haven't done it, you might not understand how you cannot live without it. And pretty much every day, at least every day on Twitter, somebody says why wasn't I using Text Expander 2 years ago, 5 years ago when so-and-so told me about it, and because as soon as you start using it, you're like, so that's a challenge. That's a marketing challenge for us all the time. But we're actually also doing more informally than Drobo, but we've had podcasters at the Smile booth, a little schedule. We have a much smaller setup, so we don't have what Drobo has going on, but Dave Hamilton came yesterday, and Adam Christensen's coming today, and just to hang out for an hour. And users come, and their listeners come, and it gives them also a place to say, why don't you meet me at the Smile booth, and you can ask me, I can talk to you then. I thought it would be good for them to just have a fixed spot to be at, for that kind of interaction with their audiences. And yesterday was great with Dave, and I'm sure Katie's going to be there on Saturday, and I'll probably try to expand it. It was very kind of informal. Adam and I cooked it up at Blogworld, and so it's going well. That's why I wanted to get you two together. I see so many similarities, even though your products have nothing to do with each other than being great products, but you're taking very similar approaches. So I want to thank you again for sponsoring, what we're doing here in San Francisco, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again shortly. But thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you, Chuck. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. It's great to talk and have this conversation with you and Gene.
Gene, thanks for everything.
Thank you for doing the show. It's a great show.
Hey, we'll see you both back on the Mac jury very soon, I hope.
Yes.
Can't you just see them in black robes, folks? I'm Chuck Joyner. We're in the Drobo booth at Macworld 2011 in San Francisco. We wish you were here too. As always, thanks for watching.
MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices Group and a member of Mac Level 10.